All right. Welcome in Toilets to Titles, episode number 20. This is week number 3 of the NFL season. We are going strong, and we're just starting to gain some steam here because things are getting real. Well, things got real. Things got real this week. With me this week, Nate is not here. Nate got called out. He's going to be busy working all night. So it's me and my man Justin at JustinFF_. Justin, what's cooking, man?
Hey, John, I'm definitely looking forward to tonight because of all these injuries, man. What a crazy week in fantasy.
You're looking forward to that?
I'm looking forward to it because, like, in my mind, in most leagues, it kind of evened itself out a little bit. Yeah, I got hit with a lot of injuries, and then there were a few leagues where I didn't get hit with any. But as I look around, other teams got hit with a lot of injuries too. And to me, that just dices it up. Like, it makes it way more interesting. Like, teams that were possibly dominating before are now without 2 top running backs or something. Like, that you dropped Mostert and CMC in the same week. You know, that's really going to shake up some leagues, and I think that's interesting.
You're like the fantasy football version of the Grim Reaper.
Yeah, sort of. I think what it does is it's going to reward the people that are going to continually do work through the season as well, hit those movers and make those trades and that sort of thing. So
maybe that's a good idea for Halloween for you this year, man. You could be the fantasy football Grim Reaper. We could find a way to come up with a costume, and then when we do our Halloween episode.
I thought we already had a plan in mind.
Oh, we probably do. I already forgot. We'll talk about that on the side. I think we know what we're doing. Yeah, I'm with you.
You know what we're doing.
Yeah. I just say so many things, man. It's hard for me to keep track of everything I say. My brain's all over the place. Anyway, that's why we record it for most part, so we can go back and listen and I can remember. But anyway, you can find me on Twitter, like it says down here, at Coach Sheps. That's at Coach SCHEPPS. And you can find the show on Twitter at Toilets to Titles. And as always, throughout the week, you can tweet at us any polls, start-sit polls, any trade questions, and the DMs are open. If it has something to do with the trade and maybe the other person in the trade is on Twitter as well, you don't want them to see it, our DMs are open. I get people asking me questions all the time. George just hopped into the YouTube chat. This is the live stream. George, what's cooking, man? He's probably just got done shooting off some rockets, so he's letting off some steam right now, listening to the show. George, my man. Anyway, you can listen to the show as always. You're listening somehow right now, and if you're listening somehow, that way, but you don't know these other ways. These other ways are Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Periscope, Spotify, and our YouTube channel. And we love and we appreciate when you guys come and see the live stream and interact with us on here and ask us questions, because it makes things flow a little bit. Kind of, coming in hot this evening, and things are good and things are going well. But there was a tragedy this week in the fantasy football community, so I wouldn't feel right if we didn't mention it. James Catullus, I believe that's how you pronounce his last name, but most of you know him as James the Brain. He is from the Superflex show. Me and him used to write for the Dynasty Football Factory. And that show used to be a Dynasty Football Factory podcast, and I used to be the host of the Dynasty Warzone podcast. He had been on my show. I had been on his show. We played in a fantasy league together for a season. So, I don't know him, but I knew him enough to know he was a great guy, very easygoing, very easy to talk to. And it's hard to find, in a sports community where bravado and ego can sometimes take control. It is hard to find somebody who carries himself so graciously, on the internet, when it's easy to just, 9 out of 10 times you're talking to somebody you're never going to talk to again. And he always, it seemed, carried himself graciously. And you could see by the outpouring of love that has been coming. John Hogue was his co-host on the Superflex Super Show, another great guy. There's a link to a PayPal account to make a donation to James's family, as obviously they're hurting right now. I'm going to post that link every week after we record our episode. Everything we record, start sits, DFS plays, all of that, I write up in article form and post at fusionffb.com. Tonight I will post that PayPal link in that article. And again, if you can help that would be a great thing to do. So, Justin, you had anything you wanted to chime in with?
Other than the fact that I'm in so many leagues, but in all these leagues, I would say probably 75% of them, the message boards lit up when they got the news, and I feel like I was. It was my loss that I didn't have the privilege to meet him based off of what these guys are saying about him. So, so the only other thing I want to add to that is that if you're watching this live, and obviously you don't have the link yet, maybe you haven't seen it. John and I have both shared it on our Twitter accounts. Again, just so you know, we've got it right here at Coach Sheps and at JustinFF_. We've both shared that link on our Twitter, so you're welcome to go there to hit that donate and try to help the family out if you can. Any little bit helps.
Yeah, and I just retweeted it as well. So if you go to my Twitter feed, it'll be at the top there. It's hard to carry on after that, but we must, and we are going to move on from one cause, helping somebody. We are doing a Fantasy Cares charity donation, and I think we're going to choose to donate to a charity that Tim Tebow started for human trafficking, which is a good cause. Every 50 followers on Twitter this season, we'll be donating $10 to Fantasy Cares. We started this, I want to say, back in June, and we've already hit the 50 mark 4 times. So that's 200 follows in 3 months, which is phenomenal. Our next target is $489. Once we hit that, we'll be at $50 total, and we're currently at $486. So 3 followers away from donating $50, and this is a running total that we will end up donating at the end of the season. Also, I'd like to ask everybody, if you are listening on YouTube, even if you're listening on Podbean or Apple Podcasts, it would be greatly appreciated if you could check out our YouTube link and like our episodes. That really helps with the algorithm for YouTube and for getting our podcast out there, I guess. And when people search certain things, it puts it closer to the top if it has more likes. So I'd really appreciate it if you could go in there. Go ahead, Justin.
You can also hit that little subscribe button that's right there beside our banner. You can't see it right now, like you and I can't see it, but our viewers can see it. There's just a little YouTube TV there. There's a little subscribe button that you can hit at any time during the video, whether you're watching it live or later.
The train is in the YouTube chat right now. Wayne, me and Wayne go back, high school buddies. We actually play flag football together, so he could actually testify about my balling in those 2 tournaments. Wayne, what's happening, man? I appreciate you listening here. All right,
yeah, we need somebody to testify because we've only seen pictures, not video.
Yeah, well, the chat's open. He could comment. He's the one who recruited me to this team. He's right the guy who reached out to me to get me to come play with them. So Wayne knows. Wayne knows what it is. All right. So speaking of testifying, this past weekend, I had a Sheppstradamas moment. Last week, I won $100, $80 on DraftKings, and usually what I do is I put $25 in to start the season, and I let that roll. And if I lose, I don't put back in because I got so much money invested in fantasy football. It's hard for me to keep putting money in, to DraftKings. So this year I started out hot. I had about $100 going into last week, and I put a $12 bet in a single play competition. 2,704 people. Let me pull up my lineup. My lineup was pretty loaded. I had Ben Roethlisberger. Well, it started with Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb had a monster week. Odell Beckham did pretty good. Then I had Ben Roethlisberger, Kamara, Calvin Ridley, Deontay Johnson, Jonnu Smith, CeeDee Lamb, and Pittsburgh. I went into Monday night. I was in 15th. So that's $50. That's a huge difference from there to first. And that was, I had 182.94 points, and I was 34.16 out of first, 29.06 out of second. I thought, maybe I had a shot at second, but first I felt like was even no way, but I just wanted to get into the hundreds, and at 15, the next guy was 0.5 points ahead of me, and then 1, then 2. I knew I was going to climb. I just didn't know how far I would climb. needless to say, Kamara got it done. And on that last drive, he caught 2 balls, and that put me ahead. And I ended up winning $3,000. So I'm feeling pretty good. I was at second on that last drive when Janoris Jenkins got that pass interference call. I thought that was going to cost me $1,500 because I thought they were going to get the ball back, they were going to be marching, they'd go score, maybe even overtime. And I thought I could get $3,000. But when he did that pass interference, and then they went down there and they were going to kick Oakland or Las Vegas rather kick that field goal. It was 10-0. It's like New Orleans they don't have anything to play for. They're out of timeouts. It's a minute left. But 2 dump-off passes to Alvin Kamara, and I got it done, man. That was my biggest win DFS ever, But now I'm feeling myself, and I'm feeling pretty confident.
Heck yeah! Now you can go let it all ride on a 12-team parlay.
Yeah, 12 team, $3,000, make it a few $100,000. That's not a bad idea. But enough about me. Enough about Sheppstradamas, but we got a lot of injury news. So Justin, I'm going to pass it to you. Let's go over this injury news before we move on to the meat and potatoes of the show.
All right. So the injuries hit heavy this week. Like it's almost criminal. And I am legitimately worried about the 49ers' concerns about the turf there at MetLife Stadium, because both the Jets and the Giants play their home games there. So that's 16 games where we could potentially see more major injuries coming up. So that's just something to consider. And I know this isn't like a waiver wire episode, because most of our viewers are going to see this tomorrow morning after waivers hit. That's not really our thing on this show that we do every week. But if you are watching live, that might be something to consider before you go put all that money into a guy like Freeman, Devonta Freeman, that just signed with the Giants, or Saquon Barkley's other backups there in New York. I mean, they're playing Russian roulette out there on that field. It's very possible. But anyway, Saquon goes down with an ACL. Most likely, well, not most likely, he is out for the season, and most likely Freeman is going to step into a pretty large role there. Maybe not immediately, but I don't think it'll take very long. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in detail later on. But Christian McCaffrey, ankle sprain, who knows how long he's going to be out. I mean, I've heard some reports anywhere between 4 to 8 weeks. He's hoping to be back sooner. And we did see that you can come back from that sooner with Saquon last season. But I just think,
I think it's 3 weeks. I think it's 3 weeks. The guy is built different. He's built different. I'd be surprised if it's more than 3 weeks.
Right. Devontae Adams, hamstring. Make sure you monitor that throughout the week. Malik Hooker, close to my heart here in Indianapolis. That Achilles, that's going to really hurt that Colts defense. He's definitely a staple there, a lot like a Bob Sanders style back there that the Colts used to have as well. If that man can stay healthy, man, this defense can just continue to tear it up. But Raheem Mostert, MCL sprain, probably. What's that?
That's my guy, Mostert. I got him in a few leagues this year. I thought I just don't know what the 49ers are doing. I don't know. I know we don't have time to really crosstalk on all these guys because we got so many players, so I'm going to try not to. But what is Shanahan thinking? This guy gets limited touches, and all he does is just blow up. Didn't he post like the fastest time in the NFL, like over the last
crazy, 23 miles an hour?
What are they doing? Like, I understand you're smart, you're a good coach, and you have your ways of doing things. But when someone's just balling, feed the guy. Like, you don't need to. Why out? But again, he's an NFL coach. I'm not. I'm nowhere near there. So whatever. I just think it's crazy. A guy takes the ball 80 yards on to the house, and you give him 5 more touches. Come on.
Yeah, no, I agree, but maybe he wants to try to prevent injuries. Okay. Bad joke. But he's got an MCL sprain. We don't know how long that's going to take. I mean, traditionally it's at least 2 to 4 weeks from what I've read. So again, you just never know with these guys, and rehab is amazing at these facilities. So who knows? Maybe he'll come back sooner. Cam Akers, rib injury, kind of looks like he's probably going to be good to go. I think if I read it right, he has
cartilage or something.
Yeah, like he missed any major issues. He didn't break anything. It's going to be a comfort issue. Like if he feels like he can tolerate the pain, then he's going to be out there. I don't think I'm going to risk starting him. I've had rib injuries in the past, and I can tell you it hurts your entire core if you get jarred just right. So that's maybe he plays, but I'm not sure that I'm willing to start him until I see it, or until he comes right out and says, "Hey, I feel good."
He's not even the guy right now.
No, and honestly, I'm not so sure that Malcolm Brown is the guy anymore. Henderson tore it up. Henderson balled.
Very confusing situation.
Yeah, but I think if I have Henderson or Brown, I'm okay with starting them this week, knowing that Akers is probably going to be limited if he does play. And
I'm starting Henderson, no doubt.
Yeah, definitely Henderson. I have a lot of shares of Brown, so I may not have a choice with all the other injuries, but I'm comfortable with Brown if I have to. Cortland Sutton, this one hurts. It hurts the Broncos, and it just hurts when you're a fan. I love the guy. I love watching him play. I love what he can do on the field. He's out for the season.
I'm interested to see how all these injuries affect the bathroom board, because I know we got a Sutton thing somewhere.
I thought about that. I thought about that too, because my
recap that when we're not so busy.
My Derrick Henry versus the rest of the AFC South is looking pretty good. Let's see. Paris Campbell. Obviously, I'm a Colts fan, so this is another one. We had Malik Hooker and we had Paris Campbell, and Paris Campbell went down on pretty much like his first play of the game on a 7-yard run. It doesn't look like it's season ending, at least. So there's that. They have to get some more tests ran, but it didn't look like there was any tears or anything that's going to keep him out for the season. So he may be back later on in the season. So I'm looking forward to that. Couple of offensive linemen on here.
Zach Pascal though now? Is he rise with Campbell out?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Zach Pascal, the last couple of seasons, that's just the way he's been. Like he's been non-existent until somebody gets hurt, and then he steps right in like nothing ever even happened. Like the guy actually can play. He's very talented, very smart. He has a knack for finding the open holes. So I am excited about that for him. But yeah, Paris is my guy. So yeah. But couple of offensive linemen here. Caleb McGarry, the Falcons right tackle. That offensive line already hasn't looked very great for Todd Gurley. As far as the running game goes, the passing game has been pretty on. Obviously, for the most part, for Matt Ryan. So it'll be interesting to see if this affects that. And then the guard for the Eagles, Isaac Siamalo, however that works out. And Carson Wentz has already been running around back there in that backfield, just trying to find anywhere to throw the football. And so a guard usually affects that middle rusher pretty heavily. So it'll be interesting to see how they fill that role. And let's see, trying to just skim through because we got a long show here. So I'm just going to.
Monty had a neck thing. He returned, and that reminds me of the bathroom board. Miles Sanders and Monty. Monty's right now, he's played 2 games, but he did outscore him last week when both of them played. Monty's RB16 right now, and Miles Sanders is RB33. So I think that's going to be pretty close because I think they're going to be battling injuries, those 2 guys, throughout the season. So that one's going to be interesting. Sterling Shepard has got a toe. You all know Darius Slayton, that's the guy there. Jimmy Garoppolo, high ankle sprain. If you're playing Superflex, it's worth picking up Nick Mullins. Drew Lock, shoulder. Well, Jimmy Garoppolo will be back. He'll be back in a few weeks, so that is worth noting. Drew Lock, shoulder. It's a significant injury. He's going to need, I guess, surgery. They said in a few weeks he has to get it. Like he can't get it right away. So they brought in Blake Bortles. So I don't know if they did that to try to tank or to try not to tank. That's a confusing move.
I think personally Bortles is just like another guy, just another arm in practice and a backup just in case. I don't think they really mean anything.
If you got no shot, and I know it's hard because any year a coach could be his last year, but if you have no shot, like your quarterback goes down and Trevor Lawrence is staring you in the face. Like, why? That he can make your organization, your franchise so much money. And like, I don't know why you would run away from that. You know, I'm not saying.
I mean, how many times does John Elway have to draft a quarterback, though?
Well, how many times has he drafted one top 5?
No, yeah, definitely.
You know, how many? I don't think he has yet, you
Yeah,
know?
he can't
So,
he can't miss on that one, right?
no, no. I mean, if you do, you're out. That's the only time when you know?
I don't know.
But
I think if you miss on him, that's the only time they're going to forgive you.
Tyrod Taylor's got a chest thing, and Adam Gase. It's not Adam Gase. Who's their coach? Why did I say Adam Gase? Who's the coach of the Chargers? Anthony Lynn?
Yeah, Anthony Lynn.
Anthony Lynn said that. Why the hell did I say Adam Gase? I have no idea. Anthony Lynn said that if he is 100% healthy, he's the guy. But Herbert balled. Herbert looked very good, much better than I thought he would in his first action. Like he looked like he belonged there. So I don't know if he's just trying to make Tyrod Taylor feel good, but that's Herbert's team. And the rest, when a locker room can see that one guy gives them a better opportunity to win than another, and then you go back to the other guy, like that puts rips in the locker room. There's clearly going to be guys who believe in Tyrod Taylor, but when you see it and you perform better, like that's so that's it for the injury segment. All right, lots of injuries. We'll put all those. I mean, you don't need to go to Fusion FFB to see our injury list. You can see that anywhere. I'll put that on there, but that's not what you're coming here for. An injury list is just an injury list. You can find that all over the internet. But we're going to add a segment tonight called Buys and Sells. I think it's an important time to add that. It's week 3. Now it's the time where you're starting to know, are you in it or are you out of it? In Dynasty, are you rebuilding? Are you kind of tanking, or are you trying to go all in, or redraft? You only could go all in. There's no tanking in redraft. You're trying to make moves. So buys and sells. Justin, you have a few on here. I have a few on here. Why don't you read through yours, and then I'll read through mine.
So I put in Dynasty, I think it might be time to sell Saquon Barkley because he still has a big name to him, and everybody just knows that he's probably going to come back next season and be the Saquon of old. But with that offensive line not looking any better, and the chances that he could continue to suffer more and more injuries, he didn't play that great in week 1 either. So it's I think it's more of a system thing. But as long as they continue to hang on to Barkley, I think they'll continue to ruin Barkley. So personally, if I have him in Dynasty, I think I could probably still get something out of him. Maybe this is a hold until closer to the end of the season, the offseason, but I'm certainly not hanging on to him going into next season at the very least if I can't get something big out of him right now.
It was so weird, like that he hurt his elbow, and it looked kind of significant.
Yeah.
And then he comes back, and it was strange to me. It was almost like destiny that he was going to get hurt.
Yeah.
It just seemed like that. You might not believe in that, but it just seemed like that. It was eerie, like get off the field.
Right.
Weird.
In redraft, I'm going to sell TY if you still can anyway. I think a lot of people are starting to realize now what I was trying to say all offseason, and that is that it's very difficult for Rivers to hit his targets down the field. I will admit that he had one beautiful throw that TY had to kind of dive a little bit for it, but it was where it had to be to keep it from the defender, and it was right in the front of the end zone, so it would have been what's typically a nice, easy touchdown for T.Y. Hilton, and he dropped it. But outside of that one crazy good throw, I've only seen really one other good throw deep down the field from Rivers this season that was actually on target. I don't think that this is going to be a connection that's any good this season. And now that I think about it, it's not just redraft because T.Y. is actually – he's like, 32, 33 years old. So it might be time to sell him in Dynasty as well. So if you haven't already, and I remember you, Coach Sheps, in the offseason talking about needing to try to sell TY where you can, and there's a couple of slots, a couple of teams I wish I would have listened to that. Let's see, I put on here to buy CMC. Obviously, when a big name running back goes down, if you can get him, especially if you know he's only going to be out for a few weeks. That initial report reads 4 to 8 weeks or 4 to 6 weeks or 6 to 8 weeks or whatever you can convince the CMC owner of. And then he comes back in, like you said, maybe 3 weeks, then you got a steal of a deal. And then regardless, You buy CMC now, if you can still squeak into the playoffs, you have a guy like CMC in the playoff run. And in our main league, in my main league of record, my son has CMC, and I told him the same thing. Like in that league, 8 out of 12 make the playoffs. So it's not going to be difficult to still hang on and try to make the playoffs. You don't want to get rid of CMC and then not have him in the playoffs.
100%.
Let's see. What other ones did I put down here?
I think you had the ones at the bottom there with the Devontae Freeman, Dion Lewis, Mike Davis.
Oh yeah. So I said sell these guys if you happen to have them right now, or if you happen to get them cheap enough off of the waivers tonight. Sell Mike Davis, Dion Lewis, Devontae Freeman, or Wayne Gallman. And especially with Freeman sign, I put especially if Freeman signs with the Giants. I put that this morning because I kind of had a feeling that he was going to sign with the Giants. But so now that he has signed with the Giants, like I said, especially with him there, it's now time to sell all these guys because everybody's going to be big on them. Everybody's going to be high on them. If you happen to already have them on your rosters, now's a good time to try to sell them if you can get something good out of them. I think the rest are either yours or maybe Nate put down a couple. I'm not really sure.
All right. So now I'm going to talk about some of the guys that I put on here. These were me. I don't think Nate put these on here. There's actually my buddy Jesse's in this chat too. He just commented Rivers to Taylor all day. Jonathan Taylor, the GOAT, phenomenal there in Indy. We were talking today, and we both believe that in redraft or dynasty, I'm selling Josh Allen. This guy is the quarterback 2 right now, and he played against Miami and the Jets. Okay. I know I was drinking that Miami Dolphins Kool-Aid prior to the season when they brought in Byron Jones, but they just have not looked good. The rest of the teams they play aren't going to be the Jets, and they're not going to be Miami. They got the Rams next week. They got the Titans in 2 weeks, the Chiefs in 3 weeks, the Patriots in 5 weeks, the Seahawks, then the Chargers, and they got some tough opponents there. I honestly think he's going to go back to up and down. And right now, especially in Superflex, you can get a haul for this cat. If you can get a guy like Ryan Tannehill and some, like in a guy like Tyreek Hill who's underperforming a little bit, or a guy like Terry McLaurin, I'm doing it, man. I am doing it because I think Josh Allen has QB1 ceiling, but I think he's going to average out to about a low-end QB1, high-end QB2. And I think Ryan Tannehill is consistently going to be a QB2. And that's if you already have a QB1. If you're counting on him to be your QB1, that's a different story. But if he's your second guy, go get maybe a Jonnu, a Darius Slayton, and Ryan Tannehill. You might be able to get that in Superflex right now. I'm selling Stephon Diggs as well. He's another guy. He's with Josh Allen. He's with Buffalo. I think this cat. Let me try to find where he is on offense. He had a big week last week, and I just don't think he's going to consistently do it. He hasn't consistently done it in his career. I know he's in a new offense. Right now, he's the 23rd overall player. He had 16 points week 1, 29 points week 2. This is probably the highest you will ever be able to sell him now that he's in Buffalo. He's that guy. He always kind of gets hamstring injuries, like those muscle tissue injuries, and I feel like it's going to hop up. And I think he's going to disappear for a little bit, and go sell him as a wide receiver 1, because I don't think he's a guy who I want as my wide receiver 1 week in and week out. But you can sell him as that. And say you got 3 good wide receivers and you need a running back, you could ship this guy to go get that running back, and then maybe you can have a guy like Zach Pascal. You could pick him up and have him as your wide receiver 3. That's not too bad if you get a running back equivalent, like an RB1. I'm selling Julian Edelman. Sorry. Go ahead, Justin.
I was going to say, hey, Steve, if you're watching, I hope you just listen to that, because we're about to talk here after the show about a possible trade.
All right, Steve, that was for you, man. Justin told me to say whatever it is that I said you're going to be talking about. I'm not sure what it is, but I am sure what it is because he told me, he prepped it. Redraft or dynasty. So that's what these all are. I'm selling Julian Edelman. Maybe not as much in redraft, but more so in dynasty due to his age. And I don't think he's going to be able to, I don't know how much longer Julian Edelman has in his tank. He's getting up there in age. He plays a skill position. He's a slot guy. I just think he's going to fizzle out. He had 12 points week 1. He had 25 points in PPR week 2. The cat's 34 years old. Come on. He's not Larry Fitzgerald. You know what I mean? He is not. I think you're going to see him drop off. So if I'm in Dynasty, I'm selling Julian Edelman. I'm buying Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith is a dude. We talked about him all offseason. It's probably a little too late to buy him after last week, so I might wait to see if he has, a crummy performance within the next week or two if I can't get him now. Go ahead, Justin.
I do have Jonnu Smith and Darren Waller in the league right now, so I've got like 2 top 5 tight ends right now. Yeah. And I did get a few talks and offers today from different guys, and everybody still wants Waller right now.
Oh, I'd sell Waller. I'd sell Waller and roll with Jonnu. I would sell Waller.
Like, there still are people out there that might still be willing to sell you Jonnu.
Man, and if you could get, like, if the owner that wants Waller has like a Noah Fant, and you could pick up a Noah Fant that I think has just as much of a ceiling as Jonnu, they might. Who knows? It might happen. You might be able to get it done. That's a good call. So I would sell Waller, and I'd buy Jonnu Smith. I'm buying Cortland Sutton. I'm always interested in buying guys that, he's off for the year. I don't mind paying. If I could get him for like 2 seconds, I'm cool with that. I will take that all day, and I'll ride him next year because I'm hoping that the quarterback situation is going to be a little better in Denver by next season. And I'm buying Ryan Tannehill, especially in Superflex. I really like this guy. He's the 11th overall player in fantasy football formats right now in PPR. He had 21 points week 1, 30 points week 2. I don't think he's going to consistently put up 30 points, but the guy's 32. I think he has at least 3 or 4 more good years of football. He's got a few decent matchups on the schedule. The Steelers are going to be tough in 2 weeks, but the Vikings this week should be all right. The Texans week 6. Bengals, Bears, Colts, those are all, decent matchups for him. And he's just as consistent as you can get as your quarterback too. I actually rid him to a championship last year in one of my leagues. So if you need a second quarterback, or if you're in a league like a redraft league and you have 2 quarterbacks and you got a guy like Aaron Rodgers, or like I said earlier, you got a guy like Josh Allen and somebody wants them, you could sell one of them to help a position of need, like a running back or wide receiver, and then roll with Ryan Tannehill. I would be comfortable with that as long as it bolsters, a position of need. I might balance, dip a little bit of quarterback, but if it raises me significantly somewhere else, I want to do that. And again, this is week 3. This is time where you got to take a gut check, and see, did I mess up here? Did I make some wrong calls here? And you need to adjust. You need to get back on the path. And try to win that money, because that's what we're here for. Whether it's money or bragging rights, whatever. We got to make moves. Don't make moves just to make moves. Make the right moves. All right, let's move on to games of the week. My game of the week this week is Chiefs Ravens. That's Monday night. I'm sure that's everybody's. I don't like going with the easy, the low hanging fruit, and I feel like this is kind of low hanging fruit. But man, it's week 3. If they weren't in the same conference, this could be a possible Super Bowl matchup, but they're both in the AFC, so it's likely the AFC championship matchup. But man, I can't wait for that one.
Yeah, so mine is the Rams at the Bills. So I kind of would typically give the Rams a little bit of an edge here, but they're traveling cross country. But these 2 teams are so similarly built in my mind. I think that it's the Rams are like the Bills of the NFC, and the Bills are like the Rams of the AFC in a way. They have young running backs. They both have pretty solid defenses that they lean on sometimes. They've got young quarterbacks that are both playing really well right now. I think that both of these teams are going to be in playoff contention, if not better than just playoff contention. And I think I'm going to enjoy watching this battle for a 1:00 game. I think it's a pretty nice setup for us.
Speaking of nice setups, we have a nice setup. We're going into our betting segment, but that sets up our first advertisement here. We have an advertisement, ladies and gentlemen. I said lady and gentlemen. It wasn't plural because I know that there's only one woman who listens to the show. And once there's more than that, I'll say ladies. So ladies and gentlemen, here is our first advertisement. Get them, Justin.
All right, so we have teamed up with the Thrive Fantasy Football app, and I'm hoping that once I finally have the time to figure out how to edit, we'll be able to just have one commercial where we throw into the edited version of the show here. But in the meantime, I'm probably going to read it off every single day. And I'm not really reading it off. I'm just kind of going off of memory here. But I will say that the Thrive Fantasy app is you're only able to play in certain states. But the way it works is that you will be given 20 different prop bets. You sign up for a league, and that league can have any number of people, and it have 10 people, or it could have 1,000 people, whatever. And you're going up against the people within that league. You bet for a certain amount of money for each league, and it's like DFS. It's just a 1 week league. But the way it works, it's based off of prop bets. It's not based off of necessarily like 10 yards equals 1 point and a touchdown is 6 and that sort of thing. It's individual prop bets. So it might say Darrell Henderson plus or minus a half a touchdown. And if you say plus and he gets a touchdown, you get like 210 points. If you say minus and he doesn't get a touchdown, since that's what's more likely to happen, you only get like 125 points. So the riskier you take your prop bet, the more points you are to score. And so you're going to choose like 12 out of the 20 different potential prop bets. And then at the end, you and all the people that you have decided to battle with in your league for that week, all the total points add up. Winner gets the pot, or, top 3 or top 5, depending on which one you sign up for. So it's called the Thrive Fantasy app. You can download it through Apple. I know for sure you can download it there. You can probably do it through Droid, I'm sure. But yeah, if you type in the sponsor code, the promo code T2T, and that's not case sensitive. It can be uppercase, lowercase, whatever. But if you type in T2T, I'll show it right here.
T2T.
There you go.
You said that pretty quick. T2T sounds like 3 T's. It is not 3 T's. It is T, the number 2, and the letter T.
Right there. There you go. Right here. So you type that promo code in, and when you put in $20, they will double that. And as a matter of fact, we even got an email recently where they are willing to double it up to $50.
Whoa.
You have a minimum of at least $20, but they will double it up to $50. And then, of course, we get a little bit of a kickback for being the show that introduced you to it. So, like I said, it's only in certain states. It's in more states than it's not. I think there's only like 18 states where you can't play. But it does look like an extremely fun site. Unfortunately, Indiana is one of those states that I cannot play. So, but Nate does have the app, and he has played it in the past. He does enjoy it, and it was definitely interesting. So
Nate's hooked, man. Nate's hooked on Thrive.
Yeah. So if you've ever looked for a way to try to help out our show, to help boost us a little bit, so that maybe we can make a little extra money to keep this thing going, because we're all doing this out of our own pockets right now. This is one way, and I know we have had one listener that's tried to offer to sponsor us several times, but he doesn't really have a product to sponsor. And unfortunately, he also lives in Indiana. So, but we still appreciate the support. Maybe we'll find a way to figure out a way for you to help us out. But regardless, just watching, just liking, and just supporting the show right now means the world to us. But if you're in one of those states, then go ahead and help us out and get on the Thrive and check it out and see what it's all about.
Shane just came into the chat, and he's busting on me already. Me and Shane playing Frankenstein last week. I knew I was going to lose last week because I had a few guys that were dinged up. Godwin, Cooper, Michael Thomas. Cooper ended up playing, but I sat all my studs. So I don't even know who Justin Toe wants to take. He hasn't even reached out to me. I don't know if there's anybody who wants to. I sat Matt Ryan. I had no shot. This week I'm hoping, I'm going up against Shane, and he's won 2 in a row, so he's taken 2 good players. So it'll be a tough matchup, but maybe my guys will step up.
I was wondering why we took the Frankenstein update off of this list, but now I know why. It's because you beat me last week, and then you lost this week. So I see the thing here. I got it. I got you.
We're a different show template. Come on. All right. Listen, so just a quick, Nate's not here, but I do want to let you know what spreads from FanDuel caught his eye. Falcons -3.5 versus the Bears. He likes Bills -1.5 versus the Rams. Tampa -6 at Denver. Packers +3 at the Saints. His locks for the week are the Ravens -3 versus the Chiefs or so. He likes that. All right, I like that. And Arizona -5.5 versus the Lions. I can tell you for sure that he loves that Arizona -5.5 versus Detroit, because he messaged me and Justin at about 6:30 a.m. this morning and told us to put money on it before the line shifts. So go ahead and do that. Now I'm going to discuss my dudes and duds this week. For my quarterback, Carson Wentz versus the Bengals. The Bengals watched Baker Mayfield throw for 219 yards and 2 TDs on only 23 attempts. Wentz has topped 40 attempts in the last 2 weeks, and he should continue that trend. They're at home. They need a win. I think Carson Wentz goes off. He tops 20 points this week. And then I'm staying in Philly. Joe Burrow at Philadelphia. Burrow threw the ball 63 times last week. All right, that is absurd. And he's entering a decent matchup. Jared Goff threw for 267 yards and 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions week 2 versus Philly. I think Burrow should have a solid day. Running back James Robinson makes the dudes list for the first time in his young career versus Miami. Robinson ran for a pretty 6.4 yards per carry on 16 attempts. That was 102 total yards. And he even contributed in the passing game with 3 receptions for 18 yards. So I think it's JR. That's what I'm calling him, because now, he's not just James Robinson. He's kind of, we're cool. So JR, all right? So JR is going up against Miami team that let up 93 yards and 18 carries to the Bills. The Jaguars have, established that James Robinson is their guy. I think they feed him. I think he does well. David Montgomery at Atlanta. As long as there's nothing that comes up with the neck. Was week 2 Monty's coming out party? I don't know. 16 carries for 82 yards. That's 5.1 yards per carry. 3 receptions for 45 yards. He topped 120 total yards, and he had a touchdown. That's a great day of work. This week, he heads to Atlanta to face a team. They're good against the run, but they're going to be worn down. Like, there's something to be said about playing in the AFC East. I know this is a little bit, it's going to seem like I'm going off somewhere, but the AFC East, they beat the hell out of each other week in and week out. Shane, who's listening, he knows. Pittsburgh, Baltimore, they beat the hell out of each other. Atlanta, going up against Zeke, it was similar style football. I know they threw the ball all over the yard, but Zeke runs like a man possessed, and he beat the hell out of that defense. And now Montgomery gets to go against that team that's licking their wounds, and I think he is going to benefit. They'd be smart to keep Matt Ryan off the field by feeding Montgomery and keeping their offense on the field. I think Monty has a good day. CD Lamb is my wide receiver this week. That's a dude at Seattle. I think this cat is just scratching the surface. I had him as a DFS play the last 2 weeks. He helped me win that $3,000 this week. He's rolling into Seattle hot. He's facing a secondary that let Julian Edelman go 8 for 179, N'Keal Harry 8 for 72, and Damiere Byrd 6 for 72. All of them had days. Edelman had 8 for 179 from the slot. And that's where Lamb's playing most this year. I think this Cowboys defense is going to let up a lot of points. I think they're going to be playing catch-up, and I think they're going to be throwing the ball all over the yard. Lamb, balls. I think he gets into the end zone not once but twice this week. All right, this is going to be the first 2 times Lamb scores. It's going to be this week, 2 touchdowns, CeeDee Lamb. Second wide receiver, Deontay Johnson versus Houston. He went 6 for 57 week 1. He went 8 for 92 and a touchdown week 2, and this guy is just ascending, continually climbing. He's an excellent route runner. He's excellent after the catch. He's a weekly starter at this point. This is a guy where, like we said earlier, selling Josh Allen, selling Stephon Diggs. If we can get this guy as a throw-in, like if he's not even the focal point, he's the throw-in, you are balling. And then finally, Jonnu Smith versus Minnesota. His breakout came last week, and I think he continues to ascend. Mo Alley Cox went 5 for 111 yards versus Minnesota. That's where Jonnu's going this week, and I think he's a better player than Mo Alley Cox. And I think he is going to get it done. Now, as far as, before I move on to duds, remember, FusionFFB.com. Later tonight, I'm going to send it over to Josh, Joshua Bigby. He's the owner of that website. He's going to get it posted. So you can go to Fusion FFB. You can see these as well as the breakdowns. I wrote those up for you. All right, now duds. Josh Allen, you're seeing a trend here. Quarterback versus the Rams. This week, the Bills are not playing the Jets. They're not playing the Dolphins. Aaron Donald and co. are going to get in Allen's face and bring him back down to earth. Deshaun Watson versus Pittsburgh. Things do not get easier for Watson as he goes into Pittsburgh to face arguably the toughest defense he's seen yet. Todd Gurley versus Chicago is my first running back. Gurley has looked mediocre at best since the start of the season. I was hoping we'd see a revival in Atlanta, and I'm not buying it. He faces a defense that held the Giants' backs to 14 carries for 48 yards. I know Barkley got hurt, but still 14 for 48. That's not very good numbers. Jerick McKinnon versus the Giants. Just when you think it's McKinnon season, Jeff Wilson Jr. creeps in and takes half the carries. Hashtag don't trust Shanahan. That's the hashtag, ladies and gentlemen. All right, because you know that he's going to find 4 guys to give the ball to. All right, that's just what he does. Wide receiver, DJ Moore at the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers held Mahomes in check last week, and if not for one monster play to Tyreek Hill, they had him bottled up as well. DJ gets a tough matchup. I'm sitting him. Emmanuel Sanders versus Green Bay. This dude went 1 for 18 versus Oakland. I thought this guy was going to ball with Michael Thomas out, and Traquan Smith was the guy who saw the most of the carries. Even if Michael Thomas is out, which he is, I am not starting Emmanuel Sanders. And finally, Evan Ingram versus San Francisco. San Francisco has only let up 26 yards to tight ends this season. 26 yards. That's a very tough matchup. I think Evan Ingram gets shut down, and I am not counting on him this week. So, Justin, passing it over to you for your streamers.
All right. So I'm going to start off by talking about my hits from last week. I didn't have very many of them, but I did hit on CJ Uzomah, 4 catches, 42 yards, and a touchdown. He was injured right around halftime, but if you're just streaming and that's a tight end that you picked up, that's still a pretty good outing. Sample came in and picked up right where he left off with 7 more catches for 45 yards. So if you could imagine what that game would have been like had Uzomah not gotten hurt, then that probably would have been a pretty killer game for you. The Rams defense and special teams ended up as a top 10 defense in most formats. And, of course, Joe Burrow, top 9 fantasy quarterback. And then Harry and Bourne were both solid flex options. I'm not a streamer of wide receivers and running backs very much, but if I had to last week, those were the guys, 2 of the guys I talked about that could have done it. And if you're getting flex positions out of streaming wide receivers, I'd say that's pretty good. My biggest misses were Phillip Rivers. He wasn't even a low-end quarterback too, and me being down on Phillip Rivers all offseason, it's kind of surprising that I would have chosen him to be a streamer. So now I'm even more down on the guy because he made me look like a fool the one time I said something good about him. But Peyton Barber went for 41% of the snap share. Or he went from having 41% of the snap share in week 1 to only playing 1 snap last week. So I kind of had some egg on my face there. And Gibson and McKissick are clearly the 1-2 punch there in Washington. Paris Campbell, 1 carry for 7 yards, and then the injury. And then the Titans were a low-end defense too. Like the Paris Campbell thing was an injury. I know you can't predict an injury like that, but still, I felt kind of bad because I was really propping him up. So. So again, with the streams of the week, I want to mention again that this is different than a waiver wire type thing. We don't do waiver wires really on this show. This is more, like I said, most of you are going to hear this show or see this show tomorrow after much of the waivers have already ran for most of your leagues. So this is more like a let's try to see what happens if you missed out on these certain guys on waivers, or if you did get these guys, should you start them, sort of thing. So with the quarterbacks, we're going to start off by saying not Mitch Trubisky this week, which is different from the last 2 weeks. So it's time to jump off of this train before it wrecks. Atlanta just got torched by a great quarterback and an amazing offense, mostly in the 4th quarter, but it still counts. And then in week 1, they got torched by another great quarterback and a nice offense against Seattle. They are last in the league against quarterbacks, but they have yet to face a bad offense. The Falcons can easily jump out to an early lead with this offense and then just play the pass on defense against Mitch Trubisky. So Mitch isn't good enough to beat that in my mind. If the defense is specifically playing against that pass, knowing that they have to play from behind. I think even the Falcons defense is going to be enough to slow them down. So instead, I'm going to stream Ryan Tannehill. He is still relatively unowned in many leagues, especially if you're in one quarterback leagues. But he has an amazing rapport right now with tight end Jonnu Smith. He's the quarterback 8 overall in fantasy right now, and he faces a Vikings defense that was picked apart by Aaron Rodgers in week 1. And I know Rodgers still looked good last week, but it wasn't as good. And many of you guys were down on Rodgers in the offseason, thinking that he's getting older, maybe starting to lose it, and he still made that defense look bad. Then they even looked kind of bad last week against Phillip Rivers. And I know fantasy-wise, Phillip didn't really do much for your team. But as far as the offense for the Colts go, they were still moving the ball really well against that Vikings defense, and they were able to put up a whole lot of field goals to win that game. And that was with the injury-depleted wide receiving core for Phillip Rivers as well. So I like Tannehill against the Vikings this week. Gardner Minshew. The Dolphins have so far been badly beaten by Cam Newton's legs and by Josh Allen's deep ball. Minshew is very good at both of these things. He does have the legs and he does have a strong deep ball. His couple of turnovers that he's going to have might cost the Jags the game, but it's not going to cost your fantasy team that much for all the other fantasy points he's going to rack up. So he should perform as a low-end QB1 or a high-end QB2 this week, just like he probably does most weeks. A decent streamer to have most weeks. With running backs, obviously, if you can't get Mike Davis, Dion Lewis, Jerick McKinnon, or Wayne Gallman this week, then it's worth a shot to spend some fab money on them. If you don't already have them, spend a little bit of fab money if you want. But again, like we warned earlier, I don't think that any of these are good long-term options. So if you're looking for a cheap streamer and you maybe miss out on these guys on the waivers, then maybe look at Joshua Kelly, because believe it or not, he's still relatively unknown in a lot of leagues. And after 2 weeks, Kelly and Eckler have the same number of carries, 35, both of them. Eckler only has like 3 more receptions as well. So with both of them having the equal number of carries, that's like 50-50. In math, I'm pretty sure that's like 50% or something. Like both of them right around 50%. So with everybody overpaying and overreaching on all these other guys because of these injuries and all this new news coming in with all these new running backs and Freeman coming here and all these guys getting this opportunity in San Francisco, you might be able to sneak in and get Kelly for a really good value, or maybe even after waivers run. And he's a 50-50 guy for the Chargers. So I like him. My next one is a deep dive. Wide receiver, a really deep dive. And not just because he scored that touchdown last week, but it's Braxton Berrios. In week 1, he hardly even got on the field. In week 2, he scored 17.9 PPR fantasy points and was the wide receiver 14 overall. But the reason it's more so than the touchdowns or the touchdown from last week is because Crowder with a hamstring is already in danger of missing week 3 against the Colts. Perryman, his ankle, he's already in danger of missing week 3 against the Colts. Chris Hogan has rib injury issues. He might play, but still, again, ribs, like they're hard to play on. They're painful to play on. But if Perryman can play and if Chris Hogan do play, they're more of the outside kind of wide receivers. The Colts have covered the outside wide receivers extremely well. They practically shut down Thielen last week, and DJ Chark the week before only did most of his damage through the slot. And with Malik Hooker out for the season, for the Colts, that slot wide receiver spot is likely the biggest weakness that the Jets may actually have an opportunity to exploit at all with any kind of effectiveness. And Berrios does have a sneaky ability to find the open holes. The Jets will clearly have to pass the ball a lot, and Darnold's interceptions are not going to equal negative points for Berrios. So I know it's a deep dive, guys, but again, if you're streaming wide receivers, you're looking for somebody deep and you're looking for just a flex option, and I think he has real opportunity in PPR. For tight ends, it's Drew Sample. I mean, I went with C.J. Uzomah last week. Drew Sample is relatively unowned, and not a lot of people are really going after him. Necessarily, they might for waivers, but again, if you're listening to this and people missed him on waivers, then you should go out and pick him up. So he went, like I said, 7 for 45, playing just over a half in place of Uzomah last week. So, and that was also on Thursday night. So he's had time to kind of prep more for this upcoming game, but also more people out there in your leagues may have kind of forgotten about him a little bit, being that it was Thursday and so much exciting stuff happened with injuries on Sunday. Let's see. He plays the Eagles this week, who just gave up 3 touchdowns to Tyler Higbee this week. And Burrow is looking better and more composed with every single drop back. The guy's going to be a baller. I'm really enjoying watching Joe Burrow play football. So so that could potentially turn out to be a long-term, long-season tight end. And then Mo Alley Cox, we kind of mentioned him earlier, 5 of 6 for 111 yards. 22-yard average week 1. The Colts tight ends combined for 5 of 6 for 69 yards in week 1. So originally they said that Doyle may be out for several weeks. Now that's kind of stating that he may play. But Doyle also isn't Rivers' style of tight end. And now that he's got Mo and they've seen it on the field, I could see Mo coming in and taking more of a bigger role with this offense than what he originally had when it was just him and Doyle, because he is that big-bodied tight end that Rivers needs to help bail him out. And then defense and special teams, I'm going with the Titans against Minnesota, just because that Minnesota offense has looked so bad. They just looked not at all in sync. And I know that my Colts defense is the real deal now. It took us an extra week to get there because of no real training camp games, or preseason games. But we used Jacksonville as our preseason game, and now our defense is on it. So they're going to make a lot of offenses look bad. I get that, but still, that Vikings offense, they didn't look good against the Packers defense either. And now they're facing the Titans, and the Titans already have a pretty solid defense. So they're going to be my streaming defense. A few others to look out for: Baker Mayfield, Myles Gaskin, and Logan Thomas.
All right. Perfect. Somehow I did something over here in the format where I duplicated your next segment, but I was able to clean it up just now as I'm going through here. We are on DFS plays, and I'm trying to stay hot. No longer am I doing just bargain buys. I'm just doing plays. Like, these are the guys that I am starting where I can. I'm finding ways to fit them into my lineup. This week, DraftKings.com, my DFS plays. I'm starting Gardner Minshew versus the Miami Dolphins. Josh Allen threw for 417 yards and 4 touchdowns last week. Gardner Minshew's going for 6,400. That's solid. I think he's going to top 300 yards. I think he's going to have 2 or 3 touchdowns. That is very good. I'm confident that he'll perform above his cost there. Austin Eckler versus Carolina. I don't know if you watched Carolina play last week, but they made Leonard Fournette look like Walter Payton. Leonard Fournette had 12 carries for 103 yards. He averaged 8.6 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns. LaShawn McCoy contributed in the passing game, 5 for 26. Fournette, 4 for 13. So they had 39 yards from their running backs. I think Austin Eckler balls out. He's at 6,800. Kenyon Drake versus Detroit at 6,000. He's going after people on Twitter, telling them if you own him on your fantasy team and you're complaining, to drop him and bless somebody else. He is going to bless somebody this week at 6,000. Aaron Jones against Detroit last week, 18 carries, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 receptions, 68 yards in a TD. I'm not saying Kenyon Drake is Aaron Jones, but if he can give me half of that, I'm feeling pretty good. All right, Terry McLaurin versus Cleveland. McLaurin had a monster week last week, and he goes into Cleveland, and I think he's got another cake matchup. Cleveland let up so many passing yards to the Bengals last week. We saw Tyler Boyd go for 7 and 72. I think they're similar wide receivers, and I think Terry McLaurin is better. I think McLaurin's going to have a great day, and he's at 5,900. And then I'm stacking Keelan Cole with Gardner Minshew. Keelan Cole's done good the last 2 weeks, and Keelan Cole's going for 4,100 right now. Last week, Keelan Cole went for 6 receptions, 58 yards and a touchdown. I think he had 5 receptions week 1, 6 receptions week 2. I'd expect another 5 or 6, and if he can get into the end zone, that's really worth it. But let's see if he could top 60 yards this week, maybe get somewhere in the 80 to 100 range. But at 4,100, if he's my wide receiver 3, and if I can play someone that's going to ball out above him, I'm feeling pretty good there. Dallas Goedert versus Cincinnati. Dallas Goedert, another guy, he kind of disappointed last week. He definitely took a step back. He had Dallas Goedert had 4 receptions for 30 yards. In tight end premium, that's good, but this is DFS, so that's not the case. So that's 7 points. But 2 weeks ago, he had a monster game. I expect him to come back out this week when they play up against Cincinnati, who, Baker Mayfield threw the ball decently against them. I think Dallas Goedert, I told you earlier, I think Carson Wentz is a dude this week, and Dallas Goedert's one of the reasons he's going to be a dude, because they're going to be chucking the ball. They're going to get a W, I think, at home this week. So he's at 4,900. Then I'm starting the Chargers versus Carolina for 3,600. They're going against the Carolina team without Christian McCaffrey. They already did really good against. The only thing that would hurt the Chargers is if this is a trap game. They lost to Kansas City, but they played them well. Now they're going to go against Carolina, who they are going to expect to beat. That would be the only thing that concerns me, but I think they're going to beat up on Teddy Bridgewater and that offense. So the Chargers defense versus Carolina for 3,600. Justin, back to you for the Turtlehead segment.
Yeah, real quick, if John's going to tell you that the Eagles, the team that he absolutely hates, have a real shot at a win, that might be something worth looking at because he's not going to admit to that very often unless he thinks it's right. Turtleheads from last week. What's that?
I said, or unless I'm trying to jinx them.
Oh, okay. All right. You're superstitious like that?
Man, I'm pretty superstitious. I'm not super, just a little stitious.
Gotcha. Just a little. Great Office reference right there.
Uh-huh.
All right. So last week, my Turtlehead from last week was N'Keal Harry, and I'm really liking that call. Cam more than doubled his passing attempts from week 1 to week 2. And just like I said last week, I think that's going to be a week-to-week thing. It depends on what the defense gives them. But if they think that they're going to be able to throw the ball with success, they're not going to be afraid to throw the ball with Cam. And if they feel like the running game is where they need to go to win games, they're going to run the ball like crazy. But on those pass-heavy days, and you should be able to kind of predict that based off of what defenses they're playing, it should be a safe bet to play N'Keal Harry. This week he had 8 catches for 72 yards, and he also had a 28.5% target share. 28, and like a third of the time that Cam was dropping back, he was throwing the ball to N'Keal Harry. That's almost criminal for a young wide receiver like that. So a stretch of several games coming up are going to lean heavy into that throwing offense. So I'm looking forward to that. My big Turtlehead for this week, I think it's time for us to. What's that?
That's just a funny thing to say. My big Turtlehead.
Yeah, my big Turtlehead. That's also why we were starting the show, because all of the sudden at the last minute I had to go to the bathroom. But anyway, Nick Foles. I think it's time to pull the trigger on Nick Foles, because for all the reasons that we mentioned up above about Trubisky, it's just time, and especially in 2 quarterback leagues, I should say, or super flex leagues, because we know about the relationship between him and Coach Nagy and his ability to not suck at times, which is an ability that Trubisky simply doesn't possess. So just think about it. I think within the next couple of weeks, because I think this week he's probably going to have a bad game, Trubisky, just like I called earlier. I kind of think that this is the week that Trubisky really has a bad game. Maybe they give him another shot in week 4. But I think it's going to be really soon. I think maybe as soon as week 5, we're going to see Nick Foles. And if you already have 2 or 3 good quarterbacks and you can get Nick Foles in a 2 quarterback or super flex league, get him now, and then you're going to have huge trade bait whenever he takes over that starting spot. I did throw another one down in here, but mostly just because I wanted to talk about it. I don't think that he's necessarily going to be a big guy to own, but I do think that he can consistently be a flex option once he really picks up the offense, and that's Devonta Freeman. Dion Lewis, they signed him to a 1-year, $1.55 million contract. Wayne Gallman is on the last year of his rookie deal, and he's only costing them around $930,000 for this season, and he was a healthy scratch in week 2, so they didn't even really feel like they needed him or wanted him on the roster. And in week 1, he hardly even got on the field or had any playing time at all. Devonta Freeman turned down a 1-year, $4 million contract with the Seahawks before the season started, and I'm not sure what this contract details are for him to come in to play for the Giants, but they made it very clear at the time that they turned down the Seahawks deal that they were going to wait until running backs went down so that they could get more money later. So I have a feeling it's probably going to be worth more than $4 million. And I checked before we came on, and at that point, I still couldn't find anywhere where it was public. I'm sure it'll be on spottrack.com here pretty soon. But I've got a feeling it's definitely going to be a lot more than just $1.5 million. And you got to believe that they signed him for a reason. So he's going to come in, he's going to be utilized, and I think he'll be utilized enough to be a flex guy. And the reason I don't necessarily think he's a turtle head is because everybody knows today, and everybody's going to go out and pick him up off of waivers. So if you didn't get him tonight off of waivers, you're probably not going to be able to get him for real cheap tomorrow. So it's just kind of a shame our show runs a little bit late, but I can see him potentially being a big flexible guy.
Well, tune in live on YouTube if you want to hear all these before waivers go through.
All right, every Tuesday night, 8:30 Eastern time.
But if you miss on Devonta Freeman, Jeff Wilson, go grab him.
Yeah,
if you can get him first come, first serve for free, you can stash him. Might be worth it. But Justin, we thought this show was going to take about 2 hours, given all the injuries, and I think we cooked this thing, man. We're about 1:05 right now.
I think it just means that Nate is just too long-winded.
Dude, Nate adds, his plus minus is 4 minutes. He adds 4 minutes. We'd like to encourage you to please hit the like button on our episodes. Heck, go back, hit the like button on all our episodes. Throw some comments in here. You're free to comment, some DFS plays that you think I'm missing that I should throw into my lineups. Let's help each other out. Start sit questions you can throw in the comments because we're always checking it out. We'll reply. Hit the like button, comment. That would be really appreciated. And even if you're listening to this thing, if you could just go to our Toilets and Titles Twitter account, and you can find our YouTube link there, or you could just search for us on YouTube. That would be greatly appreciated. And again, everything we put here on the episode, you'll be able to find at fusionffb.com, and as well as I did post that PayPal link for James's family. If you have an opportunity, if you have some extra cash, anything will help. Again, it's a tragedy, and they could use some warmth, and that is definitely, warming right there, to help somebody out. As always, you could find us on the Twitter at Coach Sheps is I, at Justin FF _ is this guy over here, at Nate _Dirt19 is the cat who adds 4 minutes to our episode, and at Toilets and Titles is the show. I did see Justin threw on there, throw some Apple Podcast reviews. You could do that as well. 5-star review is greatly appreciated. Throw some cool words in there to make us feel good about ourselves. That would be greatly appreciated. If you don't have Apple Podcasts, you can find us on Podbean, Periscope, Spotify, or YouTube. That does it for week 3. We'll be interacting with all of you on Twitter throughout the rest of the week leading up to the games. Hit us up there. Ask us all your start, sit questions, trades, whatever. We want to help you win. Justin, what do you got for him?
I noticed that we had about 8 people that came in and out tonight watching live, and that's a little bit more than we typically normally have, and probably the same 3 or 4 that watched most of it. So I can't see who you are unless you commented, but just know that at least for tonight, you guys are our favorites. We absolutely love you. So, but we appreciate you guys. We really appreciate your support. And just as always, make sure to continue to just love each other. We're all in this together.